Hello and welcome to the Education Podcast, where we explore innovative approaches and strategies in education. I'm Salam Amo. Today's episode is all about making math learning fun. Mathematics can often be seen as a challenging subject, but with the right approach, can be engaging and enjoyable. Our guest today is Mr. Modiu Olaguro, a dedicated math teacher and mathematician who has transformed the way students experience math in the classroom. He is a doctoral candidate and graduate teaching assistant of mathematics education at Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, popularly known as Virginia Tech in the United States. Modiu will share with us insights and techniques for turning mathematical lessons into fun and interactive learning experiences, tackling math anxiety and making the subject relevant and exciting for students of all ages. Hello, Modiu.
Hello, sir.
You're welcome. So,
Thank you for having me.
what inspired your interest in being a mathematician?
Well, once again, thank you so much for having me. So, it's going to be interesting for your viewers to know that we were once roommates in the University of Lagos. So, we've come a long way. And I'm really excited to be here. So I'm really excited that we are still alive. We are doing great. Uh, and I also want to use this opportunity to thank your viewers, everyone that's going to see this program. Okay, so fine. My entry into mathematics, the mathematics world, was by chance because just like almost every other person, almost every other, primary school students, secondary school students, that's get scared with mathematics. I also had my own fair share of the math anxiety and everything. And looking back, I am certain that all of those anxiety, all of those fears were born out of the fact that they were social constructs. They were things that perhaps if I had enough support, then I would have been extremely, extremely, successful in my secondary school, especially. I did not realize that I had this flair for mathematics until I got into the College of Education. That's acquired. It's now the Lagos State University of Education. Because growing up, everyone says math is difficult, math is hard, and of course, that was the mindset that I grew up with. And because especially in the secondary school, at the secondary school level, that was the time, as teenagers and everything, when we get to interact and spend a lot of time with our colleagues, and of course, even teachers, sometimes even teachers of math that says math is so difficult, So I was not exerting as much, effort. I was not, devoting much time to it. So I struggled a lot with maths. In fact, I had to rise my WAEC, a second time. And so this goes to show that it doesn't matter, if you're listening to me right now and you're struggling with math, you're a primary school student, you're a secondary school student, you're struggling with math. Yeah, so some of us that teach math now have been there. We know exactly how it feels.
What do you intend studying before you were need to study math?
Yeah, yeah, good. So especially, I come from a home of teachers. I have 4 full siblings, and two of my sisters. I have two elderly sisters. One teaches English, one teaches chemistry. So I basically come in the home of teachers, and I remember because of course teachers do not get paid well. We used to have tenants then. Perhaps half of our tenants they were teachers, and they do struggle to pay their rent. So almost no one in my generation, of course, so I think it has gotten worse. Never wanted to become teachers. So at some point, I remember wanting to pursue um, this environmental science course at Yaba Tech, wanting to become a civil engineer at Ife. So just anything outside of teaching. But I remember one of my I have an uncle. He's a lecturer at Laswed, Dr. Mafukuyomi, who I owe a lot in this world. I remember when I wrote my poly jump. This was I think in 2006. He said, well, pick wherever you want to pick. For that College of Education slot, just pick a code. I'm not asking you to pick, just pick anything you want. So when Yabatech and all of this stuff did not work out, then of course I had no choice. Then I had to go to Acquired. I studied physics math. So it was when I got to Acquired, I found that okay, by sitting down, by devoting time to study, to solve the problems, I saw that I was getting it. You know, I saw that these are things, these are problems that all that is needed is to sit down in a quiet place and solve. And of course, if you are lucky enough to have good teachers, to have good friends that you can, always reach out to, can you help me with this? Can you explain this to me? And I was lucky enough, I had someone like Alkil Yusuf that was very supportive. I had friends like Tajuddin Tijani then, Inaya Sunday, they were very supportive. And so by the time I got to my second year, I knew that, oh, perhaps this is what I should be doing. Because of course I've always loved kids. I've always wanted to impact, to, share ideas, things I know with other people. Yeah. So I would say it was not until I got to the College of Education that I knew that, oh, okay, yeah, I enjoy this thing a lot. And I'm still going to talk about enjoyment, and of course, the other thing was, figuring out that, oh, I can also do well for myself. I can also do well for myself economically if I continue in this field. Yeah.
Tell us something briefly about your PhD research.
What I do here, of course, I got my master's in math education in Unilag, the University of Lagos. So right now I'm a doctoral candidate. I became a doctoral candidate about 3 weeks ago. So I do a bunch of things because it took me a while coming from Nigeria to the US. It took me a while before figuring out exactly what, that's very, very little area I should be working on. So coming into the program, I started off, falling in love with motivational research, how students' motivation and so on and so forth. Then I ventured into beliefs, teachers' beliefs, of course, and also students' probabilistic reasoning. So right now, my central area of research is on students' probabilistic misconceptions. So basically, we know what probability is, the quantification of chance, trying to ascertain the occurrence of an event, the outcomes of events. And I'm really interested in subjective probability, how people, quantify chance based on, their personal beliefs, and so on and so forth. So, but the very small area that's, I'm working on right now in terms of my dissertation is how refutation text can help students overcome their probabilistic misconceptions. So other than that, like the research outside of my dissertation, other things that I'm very much interested in, one, error analysis, trying to, okay, how can, because as math teachers, what we do basically for the most part is that we analyze students' errors. For example, if a student says 2 plus 3 is 7, we're not going to say, oh, you're stupid, you're dumb. No, we are not going to say that, oh, 2 plus 3 is 7. We try to understand, okay, what does this student know to have come up with this answer? By saying that 2 plus 3 equals 7. Now, the student recognizes that addition makes something bigger, right? That's a very good way to start. So instead of just saying that 2 plus 3 equals 7, no, that's no. And I'm still trying to like tie it to, my area of interest, what I'm very much interested in. By saying that 2 plus 3 equals 7, the student has said, exhibited something that is extremely important, is the recognition that the answer should be greater than either of the addends, right? So good. So that's a very good way to start. So that's basically the kind of things that I'm interested in, error analysis, students' conceptions, students' misconceptions, and a bit of, radical constructivism, yeah, which is very much in vogue because we are in the era of students-centered, pedagogies and so.
What are your favorite techniques or activities to make learning mathematics enjoyable for students?
Your question is quite broad, and it could take us an entire day, to brush through all of this. Now, first we need to start from the very basics in terms of what are we trying to get the students to achieve. Earlier I mentioned 2 plus 3 plus 7, right? And how can we like get the students to build better conceptions to recognize that, oh, 2 plus 3 is not 7, 2 plus 3 is 5. So, for example, one way we can do that is, by getting the students to play with some real objects. Okay, getting some pebbles. Okay, I've got two pebbles here, three pebbles here, and getting the student to count. So by the time the student counts the 2 and 3 pebbles, they realize that, okay, this is 5. Now, but the interesting thing is that the pebbles might not be so different from the written symbols themselves if we do not like guide students along the way. All right. So what it means is that, so I've got a bunch of manipulatives here. So this is called the Cuisinier rods. So square tiles, the pattern blocks. So for example, the 2 plus 3 plus 5 that I mentioned, of course, I can get the students to count and they realize that, okay, it's 5. But that's not all. There is also, because as teachers, because I'm sure you would want me to answer this question in the context of perhaps a teacher in the classroom. So outside of mathematics itself, because math education, the teaching and learning of math is embedded within the larger framework of teaching and learning, education in general. Okay, so for example, there is, I took a motivation class here, and one of the things I learned was the music model of academic motivation, where each of those letters represents acronyms. So the M stands for empowerment. That, okay, how do we get students? How can teachers? What strategies can teachers use to get students motivated? One, so empowerment. You empower them. By empowering them, it means you are giving them autonomy, the freedom. Students need a bit of some freedom. So one strategy could be, okay, giving them choices in terms of what to do, in terms of assignments. So the U stands for usefulness. How much do they even see math as being useful to them? Because I realize I'm trying to like connect this with making math enjoyable. If students see that, math is useful to their lives, there's a tendency for them to like find joy in it, to find it enjoyable, usefulness. So what are the strategies that as teachers? Okay, I'm a teacher, I'm a math teacher, I want to teach this particular topic. How can I embed my plan with strategies of core contents that will make the students see that, this is useful in my life? Okay, for example, perhaps this can be something as simple as, okay, we know that some of our students, they help their parents sell. Some of them help their father in the farm. So it can be something as simple as, the kind of questions, the kind of what problems we'll give to them would be within the context of maybe farming, context of selling gari, selling rice. So when we do this, the student can say, okay, oh, wow, this is going to be useful. This is what I do in my mom's shop, right? So S is success. That's the third acronym of the music model, success. There has to be this perception that, I can succeed. Students should have this perception that they can succeed in math. I mentioned earlier how, growing up, all I heard was, math is difficult, math is difficult, math is difficult. I did not realize that I could do so well in it until I got to college. So how can we embed our lesson planning? How can we embed things in it in terms of, okay, even what we say, what students say around them, that, okay, they also can succeed in mathematics. And perhaps it can be as something as simple as getting them to redo their assignments. Okay, you've given students 5 problems as assignments, 20 marks, each one is 4 marks. And when they return the assignments, when you scored the assignment, when you graded it, they had maybe 5/20. Okay, why not just like give them some other opportunity to redo the assignments? All right. Perhaps they might not, by redoing it, they might not score the entire full mark, but it's possible that you might make it okay, instead of like returning these full marks. Okay, if you redo it, you're only going to be able to score 80% or 90% of the total marks. But that opportunity, for by allowing them to redo the assignments, it's you're telling them, oh, they can succeed in it by giving them extra support. So the fourth acronym is interest. Now, how do you get them interested in math? How do you make them say, okay, math is mine? Like making them connecting their identity, building their mathematical identity, making them interested in the subject. And this in some way also ties to the usefulness, because when they find that math is so useful in their lives, there's a tendency for them to be interested in it. One other thing you can make them do is, oh, okay, what do you want? Ask your student. As a math teacher, you're not just there to teach math. Ask your student what they want to become in future. Oh, okay, I want to become an engineer. Oh, if you want to become an engineer, then you have to do well in math. So connecting their present goals to their future goals. And the last one is caring. And this ties very much to the enjoyment you talked about. You know, as teachers, as mathematics teachers, we are not just teachers. We should care for our students by caring for them both within and outside of the class. So those are just strategies that we can use. That ties from the broader educational discourse to the mathematics class.
So we've been able to touch on how we can do some real life world applications in integrating math lessons into the classroom and make it enjoyable to the students. What role does technology play in all this?
Yeah, a lot, a lot. There is nothing we can do right now in this world. There is almost nothing we can do without technology, because technology is a tool that we can use for instruction. Um, it's kind of like it has democratized knowledge and even research and everything, that we have no choice than to use it, because it has proven to be a very useful tool to get our students to learn. So I'm glad you asked, because going back to the manipulatives I mentioned, these are really expensive manipulatives, and with internet access and maybe a computer or a tab, we can have as much experience online as we can have it with the physical manipulatives. So, for example, if I may, I could just have a demonstration for you how we can get students to enjoy math, concretize their experiences. So I'm just going to share how we can do that. This is my screen. So like I mentioned, these are somewhat expensive manipulatives. So this manipulative is called Cuisinart rods. And just like I mentioned the other time, the learning of math, enjoying math is not inherent in this. It's not embedded in this. This is just a tool. The same way, if I've I have a laptop in front of me, the laptop does nothing if I do not have the capability and the capacity to use it. So teachers shouldn't just think, oh, okay, by sticking their walls with mathematics shapes or objects, by using all of these objects, they can get students to learn math. No. In fact, it could be argued that you are even going to need more expertise to get students to learn with these manipulatives if you are very much proficient in their use itself. So this is called Cuisinart rods, and teachers can use it to teach students fractions. And fraction is one terribly difficult concept that students grapple with, not only in primary school, even in secondary school. Okay, so for example, if I want to teach a child how to add 1/2 plus 1/3. So I could use the Cuisinart rod. So this is the Cuisinart rod. So from the top, we've got each one measure. So the top one measures 1 unit, the red one 2 units, then the orange one, that's 10 units. So for example, if I want to teach 1/2 plus 1/3. So the traditional way of teaching it is by, oh, okay, take the LCM. We ask the students to take the LCM of 2 and 3, right? So, I want to do 1/2 plus 1/3. Oh, take the LCM of 2 and 3. That's 6. Then we teach them to draw a line. Okay, then 2 in 6 is 3. Say 3 times 1. Then 3 in 6 is 2. 2 times 4 is at the top. Do 3 plus 2 over 6. And this is what? 5, 6. I'm sure this is how you learned it yourself in school. Yeah. But how much meaning can the students make of this? How much sense can they make? So 5 over 6 of what? What does the 5 represent? If you ask the students what does the 5 represent, they're going to say it's the numerator, the 6 the denominator. But is there any meaning embedded in this? So when you say you're adding 1/2 plus 1/3, 1/2 of what? 1/3 of what? Until our students are able to ask these questions and answer these questions, make meaning of it, they are not going to be able to use mathematics in their daily lives. So going back to the manipulatives, then we see that, oh, okay, if we want to add 1/2 plus 1/3, the first thing we need to understand is that a fraction is a part of a whole, right? So because if students recognize that a fraction is a part of a whole, then they would know that, oh, the very first thing they need to do is they need to figure out what is the whole. So this is where enjoying math comes with making meaning of the mathematical context. So we are not just adding, it's not just playing with numbers, it is making meaning of whatever thing we are doing. So if a fraction is a part of a whole, so if you're adding 1/2 plus 1/3, the implication is that there has to be a common whole. So once they realize that there has to be a common whole, then the first question they are going to ask themselves is, okay, what is the whole, right? So for example, if they're making like maybe guess, okay, what if this was the whole? Like I said, because this conversation is centered around how can students enjoy math. So my argument here is that students would find it difficult to enjoy math if they are not able to make meaning of mathematical situations. So, and I'm using fraction as an example, that the average learner is able to add 1/2 plus 1/3 to get 5/6. But the idea is, do they even know what they're doing? And I'm saying that, okay, to start with, we teach them that fractions are part of a whole. A fraction is a part of a whole. So because they get 5/6, then what meaning are they making of it? If you ask them to write a word problem about this situation, most of them will struggle to do that because all they know is to take the LCM, and the LCM is just the consequence of the definition of the fraction, which is a part of a whole. So for example, how do we embed this problem situation? How do we embed meaning into it such that they can see that, oh, okay, we are not just playing with numbers. What we are doing has a context within it. Now, starting off from a fraction being a part of a whole, then what's going to be the whole to add 1/2 plus 1/3? I can make some guesses. I can say, okay, what if this was the whole? And do not forget what I mentioned the other time, that these have lengths from the top, and it increases by 1 unit. So the white one at the top has a length of 1 unit, the red one 2 units, up until the last one 10 units. So let's assume that this is the whole. Again, fraction being a part of a whole. So if this is the whole, the implication is that I want to add 1/2 of it and 1/3 of it, right? So it means that I need 1/2 of this. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 8 units. 1/2 of it is going to be the one that has length of 4 units, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's see. This should be half. So we've been able to figure out that, oh, okay, if the red one, this is like brown. If the brown one is our whole, then this is half, right? So I want to add half and 1/3. Now, what could be the 1/3? If this is half, then 1/3 should be smaller. Oh, okay, maybe this is the 1/3. Let's see. Is the green one the 1/3? Let's see. Clearly, the green one is not 1/3, right? Okay, if the green one is not the 1/3, could the red one be 1/3? Let's see. It's not. So what does this tell us? This tells us that this man here, this brown rod, cannot be the whole. So the students would need to keep grappling with this. They need to figure out what the whole is. And why do they have to figure out what the whole is? Because they're adding two things, and each one is a portion of a whole, 1/2 and 1/3. So when they start grappling with this, they would realize that, oh, okay, what they are doing is not just playing with numbers. What they are doing makes a lot of sense, a lot of meaning. And by the time they keep figuring it out, so I'm going to just tidy this, they would realize that, oh, okay, this has to be the whole. Why does this have to be the whole? Because, okay, this is 6 units. Oh, half of that. Let's see what half of it is going to be. So, oh, definitely the light green is 1/2. Okay, what's 1/3 going to be? They keep playing around. They realize that this is 1/3. So apparently what they're adding is the light green and the red. So by adding them, it means they are bringing them together, the light green and the red. Do not forget, this is our whole. So when you add the light green and the red, what are you going to get? This is going to help us. One of that, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the 5/6.
Where's the 5 there?
So 5, this is 1 unit. The white one is 1 unit.
Okay.
So we realize that we have 5 of it. So 1 unit right here, 6 of it covers the whole. This is 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, 6/6. Right? Good. Now when we added 1/2 of the whole, which is the dark green, and 1/3 of the whole, which is the red, we realize that the sum is 5/6 of the whole. Now, so the students initially started off by finding the LCM and getting 6. This is where the 6 comes from. This is the 6. So we teach them to find the LCM without informing them that the LCM is important because the LCM tells us the number of parts that the fraction accommodates in terms of the denominators of what we are adding. And we could see that, for example, the brown one did not work out because there is no way we can get 1/2 and 1/3 exactly from this. So by doing this, we are embedding mathematics within meaning, and the student consider, oh, okay, it's not just about cramming that when we are adding fractions, we just find the LCM. It's by getting them to see why we needed to find the LCM in the first place. So I hope that answers the question.
There is pull-up anxiety with math learning. What strategies would you suggest them in building the confidence with learning mathematics?
Good. So the very first thing that comes to my mind now is, respecting students. In radical constructivism, there is what we call students' mathematics. There is the mathematics of students, and there is students' mathematics. Students' mathematics is the mathematics that students create. There is the tendency for us to think that, because we spent several years in school, because we are trained teachers, then disregarding the mathematics of students. Students also have the mathematics that they create. For example, going back to our 1/2 and 1/3, a student can say 1/2 plus 1/3 is 2/5, by adding 1 plus 1 at the top and 2 plus 3 at the bottom. Those are examples, in a very silly way of what we call students mathematics. So granting students this sense of agency that they can do math. All right. So, and one way of course, doing that is by not talking down on them, by always encouraging them, however quote unquote wrong their answers are. And that's like the agency. And we also have what we call discourse, by not telling the students what the answers are. This might sound funny, but it's something that has been tried, and of course research has documented it. By not telling students what the answers are, by getting students to work in pairs, by getting students to work as a group. When the students get something wrong, instead of telling the student the answer, ask them further questions. So how did you get this? How did you do it? And every time students struggle with the math and they figure out the answer by themselves with your support, it's kind of like bolsters their confidence that, oh, okay, oh, yeah, I got this, I can do it. There is also a lot of discourse. One way to answer this one is also by embedding it within discourse, discourse move, by getting students to revoice each other's answers, each other's responses. Okay, if a student says something, I getting the other student to say, oh, do you agree with that? Oh, what do you think? What other way can we solve this problem? And so on and so forth. So these are strategies that we can use, that teachers can use, to get students to take ownership of the mathematics, which I feel the most important one is students' agency. And of course, we can also have, there is also, this revolutionary way of, writing lesson plan that also embeds all of these things. There is what we call the 5E lesson plan, where you have students to explore. It started by engaging students. They also explore, getting them to making them do the math without realizing that they are doing the math. So, for example, it can be something as simple as, okay, having maybe a 5-minute video of someone driving, just someone driving, and in different cities with maybe different speeding regulations. And after the students might have seen the video, then you ask them questions like, oh, okay, why do you think the policeman stopped this person? Why do you think the policeman lets this person off the hook? Perhaps because maybe in this city the speed limit is 65 miles an hour, the other one maybe it's 70 miles an hour. So they've seen it, they've had conversations around this. After the conversation, then you now bring in inequality. So they've without realizing that all of the conversations they've had the last 30 minutes had been on inequality, greater than, less than, greater or equal to, less than or equal to. After all of those conversations, they've explored the mathematical context. Then you now bring in the inequality. Oh, okay, yeah, the policeman stopped this person because they were moving 5 miles over the speed limits. So these are avenues that we can get students to enjoy, to understand, to take ownership of the mathematics without even just bombarding them with all of those symbols that appear boring to them.
So what are the common misconceptions about math learning that you have encountered, and how can they be countered?
One of the major things we do as math teachers is to diagnose students' misconceptions and help them build better ideas, better conceptions. So one of the most common misconceptions is, for example, if I ask you to tell me the implication of a multiplication, the average student is going to say, oh, when you multiply, your answer is going to be bigger. For example, 3 times 2 is 6, 10 times 2 is 20, 10 times, 5 times 7 is 35. Oh, okay, yeah, your answer is going to be bigger. Now, that's a misconception. Of course, within the multiplication of whole numbers, that's correct. But how about if we do 10 times 1/2? When you multiply 10 and 1/2, you get 5. Now, 5 is smaller than 10, all right? So we can see that a definition that fits when you multiply whole numbers has become somewhat a misconception when you multiply fractions, right? 1/2 times 1/4 is 1/8. 1/8 is even smaller than either of them, either of 1/3 and 1/2 and 1/4. So that's a pretty common misconception with multiplication. Even in probability, the one I talk about, when it comes to ratio, 1:2, equals maybe 10:20. When you now, because our students also learn probability, when you get to probability, you realize that, oh, okay, ratio might not be completely sufficient for us, because in some probabilistic situations, you would need, before you would be able to make adequate quantification of chance events, you will need to like perform the experiment several times, where the law of large numbers come in. So, but other than this, very specific ones, within the broader mathematics, field itself, is this misconception that math is difficult, that, males are the only ones that can do so well in math, that math is a male domain. There is also the racial dimension, though the white people are very good with math. Oh, they're the ones that win all of the awards and all of this stuff. So those are things that we need to like disabuse our young ones, disabuse their minds away from, in order for them to to fit into what we want them to achieve, which is to like find themselves, to be confident in their ability to do math, and so on and so forth. And I think I would also end with this. Of course, it's important to sit down and solve the problems, but the most important thing is that there's this misconception that math is here and life is here, and oftentimes we found that no, math is embedded in everything that we do. That's so to disabuse their minds from the misconception that, oh, okay, they can't do math is not relevant to their lives, and all of this. And one of the ways we can do that is by attaching mathematics to what they want to become in future, and they would find that there is math in almost everything. I'm not sure if there is math in English, but I'm sure even there's a tendency for you to find mathematics in any field of endeavor.
That would based on this misconception. I would just like us to talk about this. So there's an argument that this requirement that we have in Nigeria, for example, or some other parts of the developing world, where two party mathematics is a requirement for various aspects of higher education. That's that that should be abolished. There are those that propose that should be abolished. What's your view about that?
I try as much as I try as much as possible not to be a hypocrite, and I'm saying this because there is almost it's almost impossible to remove bias from the life of a human being. Yeah, I advocate for math, but I also realize that math is not absolute, and other subjects are as important. I would refer our viewers to the most viewed TED Talk. Do schools kill creativity by Isaac and Robinson? Where he talked about why STEM subjects are at the very top right now, and the art subjects are at the very bottom. And of course, his arguments, what he said was that it's because the modern day educational system uh, came out of the industrial revolution, and because of course the industries, they need people to come, they need manpower, the engineers, the of course even the doctors, the nurses, people to to build machines and so on and so forth. So it was only obvious that okay, they would elevate the STEM subjects at the detriment of dance, detriment of music, theater, and so on and so forth. But now we've realized that everything is important. Even Albert Einstein, I remember Albert Einstein, although I'm yet to verify it, but I've seen a couple of quotes. One in particular where Albert Einstein talked about, oh, if he was not a physicist, then he would be maybe a musician or someone that plays, I think, piano or something. So that tells us that Even the most devotee to the sciences, to the technology, to engineering, also finds time to relax, to listen to music and do all of this stuff. So this tells us that, all of us, most of us dance. So this tells us that these subjects are as important as any other thing. So back to your, I just need to give that context. I believe that these subjects have values inherent in them. All of these subjects, which mathematics is not an exception. I believe strongly that at least up until the secondary school level and maybe the first year of college, that students should take however basic the mathematics is. And this is because, one, let's take algebra for example. One of the things we do in algebra is we get students to use letters. We get students to use letters. And when students use letters, one of the things it does is that they are able to think abstractly. I'm not saying that without math we cannot think abstractly. But mathematics, within the context of formal education, mathematics is one subject that allows students to envision, to think beyond, using concrete things. Now, I talked about probability the other time. Probability allows us to quantify events because life, we are not God. It's only God that knows what the future holds. But as human beings, we can also because we grapple with a lot of things. We have friends, we have siblings, we want to buy cars, we want to do this. In economics, for example, we talk about scale of preference. All of these things have mathematics embedded in them. How do we bring in all of these alternatives and make decisions? Okay, what should we do based on the resources that we have? So, and I think because you do not leave secondary school until maybe 15, 16, or 17, I think mathematics is a very crucial subject that can allow you to build all of those, at least to a greater extent, build those abstract thinking, the ability to sit down and grapple with one problem for maybe 10, 7, 5, 7, 10 hours. I think math is one very useful subject that allows you to do that because in the long run, you're going to grapple with several things in this world and you need all of those foundations which mathematics provide to fit into such realm. So I would not agree with people that think mathematics should be scrapped. I would argue that mathematics should be retained even up until maybe the first year of university or college education. It now depends on, so what we just need to focus on is what should be the content of the mathematics. Are we just, doing 1/2 plus 1/3 by taking the LCM or getting them to do mathematics beyond doing math? One of the things we do here, one of the things our students do here in the licensure program, before you get your license here, you will do a STEM lesson plan. What's a STEM lesson plan? Our pre-service teachers would reach out to maybe a biology teacher or a physics teacher or an agro teacher. They would reach out to them. Oh, what are you going to be teaching so time? Okay, how can I write a lesson plan within maybe the periodic table or the separation technique that you're going to be teaching? How can I? So our teacher. So for example, if a chemistry teacher is going to be teaching separation techniques, as a math teacher, we are going to write a lesson plan within that context, that chemistry context. So your students can see that, oh, okay, there is mathematics in sieving. There is mathematics in separation technique. There is mathematics in osmosis. There is mathematics in diffusion. There is mathematics in evolution, right? One of the things they also do here is they write the social justice lesson plan. So they will just look at the social problem. For example, it can be something like, oh, okay, Black people are minorities in the US, but there are more Black people in US jail per population relative to other ethnic groups. That's a social justice, that's a social problem. So within the mathematics class, these are maybe 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old. You can embed that social problem within the mathematics classroom by getting them to see that, oh, okay, what could be responsible for this? Okay, there's a tendency for a policeman to stop you because of the color of your skin, right? All of the social context. So going back to your question, if we want to like retain mathematics beyond secondary school or beyond primary school, then it should not just be numbers. It should be embedding all of these things, connecting math with their daily lives, connecting math with their profession, connecting math with other school subjects, connecting math with social realities. So other than that, then it's not going to make sense to like get students to keep doing math if we cannot like make them see the relevance of math and get them to build connections across mathematics and other areas. Yeah. So I would strongly suggest that we should keep mathematics, but we should make it rich.
How do you, based on your experience, how do you ensure that your instruction meets the diverse needs or learning needs of your students?
Yeah, good. Thank you so much. Yeah, so diversity is very important, and by diversity, there are several components. One of the components could be racial diversity. So the primary audience of this talk is are Nigerians. So instead of race, we can talk about ethnicity. So for example, I'm Lagosian. So everyone is in Lagos. So if you're a math teacher in Lagos, and this can be something as simple as maybe you are teaching word problems instead of just using uh Ayo, Bayo, Shade. Maybe Shade bought so thing. Yesterday, the mom Labake did this. It can be something as simple as instead of using just Yoruba names in those word problems, incorporate Igbo names, incorporate Igbo names, so that at least the student can see that okay, yeah, they can also be a part of their names can also reflect in the kind of like problems that they solve in the math class. That's very subtle, almost insignificant thing can go a long way to tend to diverse learners. One other thing is we might have students that have different learning needs. Some students don't learn at the same pace. So how do we ensure equity other than equality? So by identifying students and the different mechanism or ways that they learn, and how we can pattern the kind of support we give to them. For example, we have it can be something as simple as having uh, word banks for students that struggle with English, with the English language. Mathematics has a lot of vocabularies. So we need to identify learners and is this learner going to need perhaps this person just came from the village. We can give them extra support by maybe translating some of those mathematical terminologies to their local language. If we are lucky enough to get to speak their local language, we might even in the math class, fine, English is the language of instruction, but we want to get the students to learn mathematics. We can teach them in their local language. There's nothing wrong in a math teacher speaking Yoruba in the classroom to explain to a particular student. There is nothing wrong in a math class. If you have a teacher, maybe a teacher that speaks Igbo that can assist you as a co-teacher in the classroom to attend to these Igbo students, to get them to better understand, to translate to them. There is absolutely nothing wrong in it. So these are ways that we can, attend to diversity in the classroom to make students see that, they belong here and not to make them feel ashamed, for being a minority or, for having learning challenges.
Let's get to the role puzzles, games, and some other activities play in making the teaching of mathematics fun.
Yeah, so puzzles are very important. So I remember, I think one just came from the top of my head here. There is, I think it's, I'm trying to remember, is it Monte Carlo. So there is the Monte Carlo problem. It's a puzzle, where, and this is going to be interesting for teachers to, you know, to play with their students. The Monte Carlo, where there are three doors. This is just an example. So the Monte problem, the Monte dilemma, there are three doors. So behind one door is a goat. Behind the other is a car, which is the prized asset, and the third door is empty. So the player is going to pick one door, just pick one door, but you're not going to open it. Once you pick the door, Monty, which is the game host, is going to ask you if you want to switch or stick to the door. It depends. So now the question is, if you play this game over time or so, is it going to be in your best interest to switch or to retain your door? Do not forget that you've picked the door, but you are yet to open it. So you have no idea if it's empty. Oh, sorry. Monty is going to open the empty one. Yeah. The moment you pick a door, Monty is going to open. Monty knows the contents behind the doors. So the moment you pick one, Monty is going to open the empty door and ask if you want to stick with your door or open. Sorry, or switch. So over time they found that, oh, it's in your best interest to switch. So these are puzzles that get students to like think, why should switching work? Why is there more, leverage for me to like, more chance for me to switch than to stick with my door? And this kind of problems ties to what you asked earlier about, retaining math and making math important. So when students are confronted with all of these puzzles, all of these dilemmas, they think in ways that perhaps they would otherwise not have. We also talked about games. Games also are very important to get students to, grapple with problems, because through puzzles and games, mathematics teachers could provide a very rich experience that ordinarily are not found in traditional classrooms. In most traditional classrooms, all we do is to solve, all we do is to play with numbers, to play with letters. But games and puzzles allow them to experience cognitive conflicts, allow them to build social relationship, healthy, competitive relationships with others. So it's very important that they play games, they work with puzzles, which would help them to, of course, better contextualize even the mathematics itself.
How can we measure effectiveness of the efforts in making math fun?
So measuring the effectiveness, for the most part, we measure teachers' success by how much students has succeeded. Uh, so, but I think that's very much objective. Of course, it's fine, but I think that's very much objective. There is also the tendency to also use, teachers' resources to measure how much they would give to the students. And by resources, I mean their lesson plan, uh, how rich the experiences are. And this is not to, talk down on, of course, our students should do well, but we should also recognize that there are a lot of variables and factors that could even like impede how much teachers can give. For example, if there are no facilities for teachers to work on, then I'm going to like, okay, gauge teachers by how much students have succeeded. And that's going to be a disservice to the teachers. So I think you talked about collaboration the other time. I'm not sure I got the question exactly. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
collaboration and peer learning. How do you encourage that?
Oh, encouraging collaboration and peer learning. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, thank you. Yes. I think collaboration is extremely, extremely important. And I'm not going to restrict it to the teachers alone, even the students. I mentioned pairing students up, getting them to work in groups, getting them to discuss amongst themselves. I talked about revoicing students' moves and all of this stuff. Yes, these are ways we can nurture collaboration even among the students. So teachers should also collaborate. They can do this by co-planning. I'm not sure teachers co-plan in Nigeria. So it's important that teachers co-plan. Teachers collaborate with even maybe special school counselors, special education teachers. I mentioned STEM lesson plan the other time. Teachers should math teacher should be able to like collaborate with the biology teacher, the chemistry teacher to bring in some of those, because as our students do biology, they do chemistry. So they should not just experience all of those things in those classes. We should be able to like bring some of those components in those areas to the mathematics classrooms where they can see that, because math is seen as the language of science. It's not just the language of science. It could be the language of business also. It could be the language of art. It could be the language of literature. So when we see that mathematics is not just an isolated field, but a field that has connections with real life and other subjects, then that would allow teachers to like collaborate with their peers, their colleagues, and even professionals outside of the field to, to get students to like experience, rich mathematical learning. Yeah.
How do you involve parents and guardians in the process of making math fun?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I talked about collaborating with professionals outside. These professionals are parents. Some of them are uncles. Some of them are they are aunts. It's not going to be bad for a math teacher to bring in maybe an engineer to the class so they can see that the angles that you're going to be teaching them is the same thing that the engineer uses. So, and another thing is getting like communicating with parents. We, as math teachers, we are not only expected to reach out to parents only when our students quote and unquote misbehave. Sometimes when a student that has always struggled, like got something right, you can write a letter to, you can phone the parents that, oh, when this person gets home, give her a pat on the back. She really struggled and she has done so well today. So these are ways that we can even see, because some of the parents feel they do not feel this sense of ownership in their students' learning. So these are ways that we can get our parents to be much more interested in what their their students are doing in the class. Another is that when we grade, we should not just be fixated on the objective grading. We should give rich feedback, qualitative feedback that students will understand, that their parents can also relate with to better know how they would help their students,
Okay. What would be your
their
parting
children. Yeah.
shots?
Okay, my parting shots. First to the students, I'm just going to say that math is something that you can. I have struggled with math. Math is something that you can understand. Math is there is what we call growth mindset and fixed mindsets. So growth mindset is, oh, okay, this notion that, oh, my intelligence is malleable, it's not fixed. That if I study, if I work hard, I can do this. That's the kind of mindset I want our students to have. For the math teacher, I know it's challenging to work in Nigeria. I know it's difficult. I know it's tough. But there is a lot, it comes with a lot of fulfillment and, of course, sense of responsibility if we keep, developing ourselves and giving our students the very best. I would encourage us to keep, loving our students, getting them to learn the mathematics, however challenging the atmosphere is. For parents, I'm also going to encourage all parents to keep supporting their children, keep supporting teachers. Teachers need a lot of support. And also, if you've got anything to spare, encourage our teachers. Whatever you have, you can also support them. You can buy things, you can buy textbooks in schools. I think these are things that I feel we genuinely need to support not just the mathematics teacher, but other teachers and, of course, the school in general.
Over the past
You're
hour,
welcome.
we're talking about making mathematics learning fun with Modiu Olaguro. Thank you very much for joining us, Modiu.
Thank you so much for having me, sir.
You can catch up with other episodes on our website, ediceleb.com. I've been the host, Abdulsalam Amo. Bye for now.